Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing how to get your ex back. I provide audio coaching to help people try and get their ex back or get a new girlfriend or boyfriend. Check out my website for more details. www.dateme.tips. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing how to get your ex back. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, it can be a minefield to know where to start in trying to reconnect. In today's podcast, I'm going to give 3 pieces of advice of how to increase the chance of getting your ex back. Now, by my words I've just said there, increase your chance, it's important for me to say that there is no 100% guaranteed way to get your ex back. And instead of that being something to intimidate you, hopefully that will let you see that I'm genuine and understanding and trying to give you the best possible chance when I upload my podcast. I'm not trying to sell you snake oil. I'm not trying to guarantee you something that's not possible. This is about increasing your chance, not reducing your chance. So although I can't guarantee your success, I can pretty much guarantee that if you do certain things wrong, that will decrease your chance. But if you do the things I'm going to speak about in today's podcast within the 3 main points, you will have a better opportunity of one day reconnecting. So let's get straight into this. And number 1 is implement my version of the no contact rule. So for those of you who are not aware what the no contact rule is, no contact is something that lots of people suggest you implement if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back. The problem is that there are many different versions of a no contact rule that you can find online, and I believe that my version is the best possible chance of success because I believe that the concepts that I go within give you that opportunity not just to try to get your ex back from a perspective of going no contact as a basic principle, but it allows you the space to really start to recover. Because without breakup recovery, there can't be reconnection. Getting an ex back or meeting somebody new has to be built on a strong, stable foundation of self-worth. And you can get that through my version of a no contact rule, I believe, better than the other versions of a rule that I found online. Now, if you want to fully immerse yourself in my version of a rule, because I'm not going to dwell on it right now and go into all of the intricacies that separate it from other rules, please listen to my YouTube playlist entitled The No Contact Rule. Now, I'm going to make this easy for you, and at the end of today's podcast, on my YouTube video, you will see an easy-to-click link that will take you straight to that playlist of all of the podcasts about my version of a no contact rule. So listen to this podcast all the way through to the end, and then when you get towards the end, you will see the link to click on my YouTube video, and you can go straight into my version of a no contact rule and fully immerse yourself in it. The basic principle, you might say, is what I always suggest, that if you've been dumped, you should never contact your ex again unless they contact you first. However, there are exceptions to that rule, and these are some of the things that I do go into on my playlist. And as well as that, as I was saying just a little earlier, this is not just about the principle of going no contact and trying to get an ex back on that kind of concept alone. It is about helping you go through breakup recovery, finding yourself, understanding who you are, and experiencing growth. This will enable you to become closer to the version 2.0 of yourself and enabling yourself to be more attractive to your ex if and when you hear them. So please listen through to the end, click the link to the No Contact Rule playlist, listen to that all the way through, and you will immerse yourself in this first and very important step of how to try and get your ex back. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast about how to get your ex back. And point number 2 is fill negative holes with positives. So when we go for a breakup, we have a lot of negative holes. Now, these can be something which is physically there, something which is tangible that we can see. For instance, our ex's possessions are no longer in our house. If that is the case, then where there was once their possessions, there are now holes, there are gaps. These are negative holes, and we need to fill this with something positive. If you was to leave that gap, then you would be reminded of your ex just as much as if they had left their stuff there remaining. The reason for this, because if this gap has just been left there, you will be reminded of what used to be there. And hence it's so important that you fill that gap with something positive, such as photos of family and friends, such as objects and possessions that have nothing to do with your ex. Now, of course, this is all under the proviso that your ex has took their belongings. What happens if your ex actually left their things and they're still in your house? Well, if you can see them, okay, there's not a gap, but you will really have a negative hole in your heart when you see those items that are still there. I strongly suggest that you collect all of your ex's belongings, including the photos that you may have up, and put them safely in a box and keep them somewhere safe. I do not suggest you throw them away. Don't burn them, don't do anything daft like that. Just keep them somewhere safe where you can't see them. Put them somewhere out of sight, out of mind. But if you ever do need them in the future, you know where they are. If you reconnect, you certainly don't want to have thrown away your ex's belongings. And even if you don't get back with your ex, you don't want to be in a position where you feel that you've been so negative, you've just thrown everything away. You want to be thinking in a very sensible, thoughtful manner about what you want to do, because you may, in the future, want to give your ex the belongings back, even if you don't reconnect. You might not think that's possible right now, but the future will make you feel so much different to how you feel in this present day. Every single day is a new day. Always remember that the sun will always rise after darkness, and even though you feel fairly gloomy right now, that's probably an understatement. In the future, you will find positive thoughts, whatever the situation is between you and your ex, and therefore I don't suggest you throw away their things, because you never know whether you need them because you reconnect or whether you want to give them back. Therefore, keep them out of sight, out of mind. Don't let those negative thoughts spring into your mind because you see these items, or if they aren't there, but you see the gaps. Now, how about things which aren't tangible? How about things which aren't physically there? When we are talking about trying to fill negative holes with positives, we're also talking about time. Time can't be seen, but it's so important. Of course, you spent a lot of time with your ex. Even if you weren't with your ex at a certain period of the day, you was probably texting them or on the phone. You need to fill this time with positivity. And what I strongly suggest you do is join new classes, groups and clubs. You probably don't want to, but these things will help you grow. When I was talking about no contact in point number 1, when you go no contact, you do need to fill that time. And joining new classes, groups and clubs will not only allow you to speak with people who didn't know your ex, they won't be speaking about your breakup, they won't be keep mentioning things which keep bringing you back down into a negative state of mind. This will enable you to learn new skills. You could become fitter, healthier if you do an exercise class. You could become more intelligent in a certain topic if you want to get a new job. Maybe you want to join a class to improve your education. Whatever it is, you can improve yourself, and this will enable you to become that version 2.0 of yourself. I was saying in point number 1 that no contact allows you the space to really start to regroup and allow yourself to try to stabilize. But to get to that version 2.0, you need to improve. You need to go through self-improvement every single day, becoming a better person today than you were yesterday, and a better person tomorrow than you are currently today. If you do these things, then you will enable yourself to fill the negative holes, whether they are something you can actually see or whether there is something in your mindset. You can fill these negative holes with something positive, making something good out of something bad. If we do this every day in our life, we will find happiness. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about how to get your ex back. And point number 3 is communicate effectively. Now, I always say the hardest part about getting your ex back, in my opinion, isn't my version of a no contact rule, but instead, if and when you hear from your ex, you will move into a communication stage. And this is such a challenging time, and you must make sure that you communicate effectively. People often contact me and book an audio coaching call to help me speak through with them ways they can improve their chances of success during the communication stage, because it is very challenging. What do you say to your ex if and when they contact you? Well, of course, it depends on the context, and therefore I can't go into the intricacies of this in today's podcast, but what I will give you is some generalized advice. Firstly, you need to communicate. That might sound obvious, but some people will believe that no contact means if their ex contacts them, they don't reply. That couldn't be further from the truth. My version of a no contact rule is that if you've been dumped, you should never contact your ex again unless they contact you first, and that is the key, unless they contact you first. If they contact you, you must reply. You must communicate effectively, and that starts by actually replying. When you speak with your ex in this way, make sure that you answer whatever they are asking, make sure you are referencing their initial message, and it is likely to be a message more so than any other types of communication. That is the most common form of contact that an ex will reach out with. But when you do this, make sure as well that you answer the question, but then ask your own question. Always remember, leave a question mark at the end of a text, and that will enable you to remember that you need to ask a question. If you don't ask a question, it could look like you're replying with a statement. And if you reply with a statement, that can come across as being fairly blunt, and your dumper might think, well, they don't really want to talk. They've answered my question, but they're not growing the conversation. You need to grow the conversation. So if you receive contact from your ex, reply to what they're saying and then ask them a question. But here's the important part. Do not mention relationship topics. That means do not ask them a question about your previous relationship. Do not ask them a question about your breakup. And do not ask them a question about whether they are dating somebody new right now. These topics are not going to help you. Now, if your ex brings these things up, then of course, this is the time you can go through them and go into them. But right now, this is not something you should be putting pressure on. This is not something you should be digging up and getting involved in. You need to be thinking about asking a question which is completely off topic, something happy, carefree and fun. Maybe your ex randomly asked you if you saw a movie last night, and you might think, well, why would they do that? Listen, dumpers often reach out with something known as the indirect direct approach. It's indirect because they're not coming out and actually saying, I miss you. Okay, it's direct because it is a straightforward message to you, but it is indirect because it is not something which is blatantly obvious that they're thinking about you. But consider this, if they've reached out to you for a non-necessary reason, then they are thinking about you, they have to be. So just take it as a certainty. They've messaged you, there was no reason that they had to, therefore they're thinking of you. So if they message you about something random, such as, did you see that movie last night? Did you see that band last night? Okay, respond to that and then ask a question back. It could be something as simple as asking what they asked you. You could say, oh, did you watch it? Did you listen to it? It could be something, of course, different to that, but just stay away from relationship topics. Now, when you're going through the conversation back and forth, it's important to remember that the end goal is meeting. You can't have a relationship with somebody on the phone, and hence I would always suggest that this isn't something which should be going on for too long. If you want to understand more about what I mean about this, how long this should be going on for, your unique circumstances, and how you take this to the next level of hopefully meeting your ex, then this is something where you might want to contact me about booking an audio coaching call, and we can speak about your unique situation and what I suggest you do to increase your chances of success. As I've said, there is no 100% guaranteed way to get your ex back. Nothing works 100% of the time, and nothing fails 100% of the time. But if you use the hints, tips and advice that I've given in today's podcast, this will increase the chance of you one day getting your ex back. Always remember, though, that with or without your ex, you will have a positive future. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.
Yeah, if you miss your ex, we can help with that. Help you get him back, or we can help find you someone else. Yeah, Vincent, the relationship coach, giving you some insight, bringing you a new approach. DateMe.tips, go and check the site, giving you advice, helping with your love life. Get your ex back or move to the next. Ain't no sweat, you know Vincent got you. Finding love ain't no problem. Yeah, DateMe.tips, check it out now.